the best wrong number call you ever received? Story 1. I once had a wrong number call from a debt collection agency, asking for someone ID never heard of. They'll call her Jane Doe. I explained the situation and they just hung up on me. No sorry for wasting your time, not even a goodbye. A few weeks later I got another call from the same number, so picked up and answered. Good morning, Jane Doe's office. They asked to talk to her, but I explained that everyone needs an appointment. I offered February 19th, 3:15 p.m. It was October. They insisted that February was unacceptable. They carried on calling and texting every few weeks, and I carried on playing the part of the most obstructive personal assistant imaginable. I mentioned that any money matter should be handled not through me but rather by contacting Doe's financial advisors, but then refused to give their number, as anyone who is really doing business with Doe already has the relevant contact information. I carried on being as professional as possible while remaining utterly unhelpful for over 5 years. Several times I pointed out that they'd been offered that February meeting but refused it. My viewpoint was that if one of them ever treated me with professional courtesy, then I'd admit to everything. I don't know how much the debt was, but over the years they did offer a settlement for less than $300. Finally, early in 2017, one of them was polite and reasonable, so I explained the situation and made a few suggestions for changes to training at their company. They haven't called since. Sometimes I kinda miss them. Story 2. There was a hostage situation with multiple shootings where I lived last year sometime. Got a random call from some lady in a completely different state shortly after the media grabbed a hold of the situation. When I answered she yelled, "Trisha, you okay baby?" I informed her she had the wrong number. She apologized. Then she said, "Are you okay though? I heard about the hostage situation going on. You're safe, right?" I live about 25 minutes from where the hostage situation took place, but it made me smile that she stayed on the phone with a wrong number to make sure the stranger was okay too. She actually still calls every couple of months to say hi. Story 3. Hey, I have a good one. So I answered a call from an unknown number. There is a dude who asks, "Is this random name here?" I say nope. He says he's drunk and walking back home. I say I'm not drunk but walking back home too. He asks me if we can talk because he's feeling down. We end up figuring out we actually have some mutual friends. We talk for like 6 hours with breaks and meet next weekend on a party. This was 8 years ago and we're still friends. Crazy coincidence, but a good one. Also got a lot of wrong number calls after I changed my number for about 4 years afterwards, but none of them were good. Story 4. I kept getting calls like this. Me hello. Caller psychopath. Me I think you have a wrong number. After about 9 such calls over a couple of weeks, I finally noticed in a newspaper ad that the local bicycle shop psychopath had almost the same phone number as us. Story 5. Got a call from a crying lady about 7 years ago, saying over and over, "Mom passed away, I don't know how. You were supposed to be there." I'm freaking out because she sounded like my sister, at least through the hysterical crying and talking. After the first 2 minutes of trying to get a word edgewise to my sister, she says she doesn't know how to make it to Marion. Wait, who is this? Come to find out, not my sister but some poor lady whose mom passed and hysterically misdialed her brother. I was living in Cincinnati at the time and the mom and family. Also, funeral was in Marion, a bit north of Columbus. She apologized and calmed down, but by this point I was kind of drawn in based on the emotional roller coaster, so I asked her where she lived and found out who she was. Very sad situation, so I told her I'd pick her up from Lexington, Kentucky and take her to Marion the next day, Saturday. I met some of her family and left. Now for the last 7 years I get a Christmas card from this sweet lady, and she's come to my home a few times for my kids' B-days and my family as well to some of her life events. Summary: got a call from a lady crying about mom passing. After realizing it wasn't my sister, helped her out by driving her to her hometown to see fam and funeral. An initially terrible phone call resulted in a fantastic relationship with a wonderful person. Story 6. About 12 years ago I got a phone call from an elderly woman looking to talk to her granddaughter. When I told her it was the wrong number, she hung up and then immediately called back again. Finally asked her what phone number she was calling and it turned out it was mine. She seemed really sweet, and after a couple minutes of talking we determined that the new phone number that I had must have been her granddaughter's old phone number. She gave me her granddaughter's name and town, and within a few minutes of Google searching and Facebook and basically cyberstalking, I was able to find the woman's new phone number. I gave it to her and she was able to contact her granddaughter. Story 7. This story involves me not receiving a wrong number call, but facilitating one. When I was a teenager I felt like making a creative prank call, so I used my dad's home office phone to make a prank conference call. I called one random number, and while it started ringing I called another random number on the other line and patched it through. The timing was perfect and the first person said hello, to which the second friendly person replied, "Oh hello, how are you?" They made small talk for about 3 minutes before realizing that neither of them had called the other, and they hung up, very confused. I was very proud. Story 8. When I was 16 years old a woman called my cell and tried to fire me. She was very worked up, and whatever deadbeat employee she had been trying to call must have been a real piece of work. She was going on about how I never showed up to work, always gave excuses, etc. I kept trying to interject to say, "Ma'am, I think you have the wrong number," and she was all, "Don't give me that bullshit. I'm not buying it." Finally I said, "Ma'am, I don't think you understand. I'm a 16-year-old high school student sitting in my parents' basement. I really think you have the wrong number." Pause. "Oh my god. Sweetie, I'm so sorry to have yelled at you. I hope I didn't upset you and all that." I just wished her well and told her to give the guy, and went back to playing Call of Duty. Pretty wild. Story 9 We are calling to make sure you are still on for your hysterectomy next Tuesday. I'm a 17-year-old boy and don't have ovaries. Are you sure? This is the number on file. Yeah, last time I checked. Story 10 Many years ago when I was 11 or 12 I'm 43 now, my mom tells me my friend is on the phone. The girl asked for me, and said her name was Lori my best friend, so I grabbed the upstairs extension and we proceed to have a conversation. About 10 minutes into it, I'm thinking something is off, it didn't quite seem like her. So I ask I'm sorry my mom never said who this is, and she says Corey, I'm like I don't know a Corey she asked who I am, and I'm like this is Quickwit Queen, she tells me she was indeed calling for Quickwit Queen, but one from another town, my mom had misheard her name and she somehow dialed the wrong number but got someone by my name. We continued to talk for a few more minutes as we were enjoying the convo, but eventually hung up and I never heard from her again. Story 11 Few years ago I had a brief text conversation that went like this texter taking big poopy. Me who is this? Texter sorry wrong number. Me no worries, hope you feel better after. Texter I sure will, it's not the craziest or most wild of things, but still makes me chuckle a bit. Edit and a wrong number text about is now my most upvoted comment on Reddit. Thanks guys. Story 12 I pick up the phone and hear what is clearly a child's voice. Hello, this is, the refrigerator company. Okay, so it's clearly a wrong number because I don't know any children, and they're clearly setting me up for an is your refrigerator running joke, so I decide to mess with them. Oh, the refrigerator company, finally, I've been waiting for you to call back for days. My fridge still isn't running. I've defrosted it, I've cleaned the coils, I've reset the circuit breaker, I've tried plugging it into another outlet, it will want chill, it's not making any noise or anything, the fans don't spin, and yes, I cleaned the fans too. The light works, but that's about it. I've lost hundreds of dollars of food and I'm being greatly inconvenienced by having to buy new food every day. I have an important dinner party on Saturday, and I absolutely must have refrigeration. I need you to send out an emergency technician immediately, because this wait is absolutely unacceptable. The poor kid breaks down and fesses up that she's just trying to do a prank phone call and she must have gotten the wrong number. So I fess up that I'm just messing with her, give her some tips on scripting and delivery, and we part amicably. Story 13 A guy called me a year or two back. Turns out a stripper had given him the wrong number. I'm sure he was very disappointed to find out it was a 16-year-old boy on the other end. Story 14 I'll preface it by saying that my number is apparently similar to a drug dealer named Dante. I have gotten people calling the wrong number at least once a week looking for drugs since I got this number in 2004. I gave up on explaining it and tend to just mess with these people. When I was home from college for the summer probably 10 years ago, watching TV with my dad, get a call from a number I don't recognize and the conversation went like this: hello, hey man, what are you up to? Not much, just chilling, watching TV at my parents' house. Cool, you wanna hang out at my place? Yeah dude, see you in like 20 minutes, cool, see you then. Then I hung up, my dad was like, who was that? And I was all no idea, wrong number. Story 15 I guess my cell phone number belonged to some dude with serious health issues. I get a monthly call from a hospital asking for this guy and always tell them it's the wrong number. Well one day, I got a call saying something about them finding a donor. I hope he got it. Story 16 When I moved into my first apartment, landlines were still commonplace, cell phones not so much. Someone for about a month was giving out my phone number as the phone number of the local ambulance company. I would regularly get non-emergency calls asking to schedule an ambulance to transport patients between nursing homes and hospitals, etc. First, it turns out people don't really listen to what you say, and they would continue to try to make the appointment after I told them it was the wrong number. Second, there was one lady who refused to believe that she had the wrong number. This was the number she was given, so I had better be ready to transport her patient. I wound up explaining I was a college student with a beater, and not in a position to transport critically ill people before she finally accepted that I couldn't help her. Story 17 I answered an unknown number, hey mom, knowing full well it wasn't her, and just started talking like it was my mother. A very confused Asian man kept telling me he wasn't my mother before he finally hung up. Story 18 When I was younger, my voicemail recording said leave your name and number and I'll call you back maybe, if I feel like it. One day, I got a call from a wrong number that I missed. It was a random lady who got wildly offended by that if I feel like it remark. It was amusing, but I didn't feel like it so I didn't call her back. I had that message saved for a few years, until I lost it when I got a new phone. Story 19 Back when I was in high school, I got a text at 8:30 in the morning that said I'm done with you, you piece of, I'm done, you go pick up Clary from school and offer me. I then responded I think you have the wrong number, to which this person responded fuck off Matt. My name is not Matt. She didn't respond to anything else, so I have no idea what happened. My best friend's house phone was one number off from a nearby Burger King. They got phone calls from irate customers all the time. Story 20 When I first got my Google Voice number, I guess it used to belong to a doctor's office. After a convo with a nice old timer, I realized they hadn't updated some of their office literature. I was able to track it down and ask them to change it, and they were super rude, said it's expensive and their website is up to date. The problem is they got a lot of calls, and I was doing a job search so I had to keep the line clear. I tried telling people they had the wrong number, but these boomers would just curse me out or demand I call the office for them. Finally I got fed up and ended up spending a weekend giving anyone who called the same appointment time 4:30 p.m. on the upcoming Friday. The calls slowed down drastically and within a week had stopped. Story 21 I received a call one Saturday afternoon where the guy started with Andy. Where and when's the party, bro? I got the booze. My IRL name is in fact Andy, but I did not recognize this fellow at all, and I was not hosting any kind of party that night either. I lived in a small apartment at the time with my mom. I told him he must have had a wrong number and told him to have a good time. I then started to think about how there is an Andy out there who must have a phone number similar to mine, so I decided to try changing out one number from mine and calling in hopes to find this Andy. Within a few attempts I'm in luck and I ask a gentleman, "Is this Andy?" "Yeah, that's me." "Oh cool, my name is Andy and your friend X guy who called me earlier said he has the booze and wants to know when and where your party is." I then proceeded to explain the situation and we laughed about it, and then I wished him a good time at his party. Edit: I intentionally only changed the last digits so 8 other numbers just to see and lucked out. After that I would have shrugged it off and gone back to watching anime, which I still did after I talked to him. Story 22 Game 1 2005 NBA Playoffs. I was with my friends watching and rooting for the Pistons, and someone in San Antonio randomly dialed a 313 area code number to talk smack and got my cell. We called each other every game after that through Game 7, when I unfortunately had to congratulate him on the win. Story 23 When I got my first cell phone at the age of 19, I kept getting a lot of calls for the same person, whom I'll call Joe. Joe was apparently a bit of a shady character, as a lot of the calls were people yelling about him owing them money, the location of packages, etc. Joe had apparently changed his number without informing his creditors' accomplices. It was annoying for me because my voicemail kept getting filled up with messages for this guy. So one night I was in a hotel room with my family. We were all going to visit my grandfather for Christmas, when my phone started to ring in the middle of the night. My family members were all yelling at me to shut off my phone. I did so and went back to sleep. Next morning, I checked my messages to hear, "Joe, I'm really sorry, but I had to call the cops. You've got like 5 minutes, man." Calls for Joe declined after that. Story 24 I recently got a call from what I assume is some sort of solar company. "Hello, is this Sarah?" "Nope." "Well, my name is..." I was just dumbfounded by the fact that despite me not being the person they tried to call, they still tried to talk to me. Story 25 In college I got a call at like 2 a.m. from some guy yelling at me and threatening to beat my if I didn't stay away from his girl. I had just started sorta casually seeing a new lady friend a couple days before, but it became clear when he said a name that wasn't hers that the guy had the wrong number. I told him as much and went back to bed. When I casually mentioned it to the girl the next day, before getting to the whole wrong number part of the story, she got a shocked look on her face and said, "How the did dude's name get your number?" Turns out she had a boyfriend that she was cheating on with me. I politely told her we weren't going to work out and neglected to mention that it was a wrong number. Bullet dodged. Thanks, random angry guy. If I knew who you were, I'd buy you a special dialing wand so you can threaten the right dude next time. Edit: I thought of another phone-related mix-up that is pretty funny. I switched providers and had to change my number. I gave my friends the new number, but apparently some of them just added it to their contacts without deleting my old number. It was apparently eventually reissued to someone else in the area, and sometime later my friends, thinking they were texting me, sent a message to that number with an invite to a party with the address and all that info. The dude actually showed up. Apparently he was pretty chill, but everyone was pretty confused and thought it was strange that someone would get a random text like that and just go without seeing who was texting him. I thought it was hilarious. According to my friends, the guy even sort of looked like me and they refused to call him anything but my name. Story 26 I got a voicemail a couple of years ago that was hilarious. Unfortunately I lost the VM, but I played it for so many people I have it memorized. Dude was clearly from New York. He had a heavy accent. Here's what it said. "Hey, so I bought this moped from you last Thursday and I took it to my guy and he's telling me the gas tank is all rusted out. So listen to me right now, I don't know what you were trying to pull, but let me tell you something, pal, I'm gonna get that moped money back." Story 27 This one time a guy called the landline at my mom's house looking for my dad. I don't know how or why. My dad hasn't lived with us for years and never lived at the house the guy was calling. Me: "Hello, this is Sonatic speaking. Who's this?" Guy: "Hi, can I speak to Sonatic's dad?" Me: "Sorry, he doesn't live here." Guy: overdramatic gasp: "What, me? I could give you his number." Wait a minute, is this Shane, my dad's friend who was known for being ridiculous over the phone? Guy: "No, this is Levi, you know, like the jeans." Story 28 The first time someone won $1 million on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was a big deal in the UK. We were sat watching it at home and as the final answer flashed up correct, the phone rang, my dad answered and the voice says, "Did you see that? Fantastic," and my dad and this dude chat for a while. They then realized that neither had a clue who the other was and the guy had called the wrong number. They chatted for a while before hanging up even after realizing, dads are awesome. Story 29 This sweet little old lady would call and leave me a voicemail about twice a month for about 5 months explaining that she dialed the wrong number and that she was trying to reach her friend. She'd go on saying how terribly sorry she was, who leaves a voicemail apologizing for dialing the wrong number. Cute old lady, I miss her. Story 30 When I was about 11 and home alone, this elderly woman called my home looking for Maria. I told her there was no Maria and she must have called a wrong number. She started to insist I was lying to her and to tell this Maria to come at the phone. She really needed to talk to her. It went on for about half an hour until she got pissed and hung up. She called another 2 times, always accusing me of lying to her and being a bad kiddo. I was a bit scared too because I was a dumb kind home alone. Another time I had this random woman harassing me with texts and calls and accusing me of being her husband mistress. I was 13 and no idea what was going on and I told her, She even heard a child voice when she called me but still believed I was his husband affair. Once I moved to another country and I had a new number. I didn't know anyone there and no one beside my family back home had this number. One night a blocked number called me and all that I could hear on the other side was a man breathing and whispering gibberish. This went on for a few minutes. I was pretty scared and never found out who he was. Story 31. I didn't actually answer, but a message was left on my voicemail from a very agitated man looking for his pizza. The message was something along the lines of I want my pizza. I ordered it over an hour ago and it better be here in 5 minutes or I'm going to call the police. You hear me 911 motherfucker, I want my pizza now. Story 32. I had this teenaged girl call my cell on a daily basis for about 3 weeks straight. I was in my 30s and I was kind of freaked out why this girl kept calling me. She seemed pretty confused and naive each time she called me. It would happen so often, I would put her on speakerphone so the others around me could hear how random this was. This girl thought the entire time that I was her best friend. It started off as confusing, became funny, and then just sad. I finally said something to her along the lines of, "Look little girl, I'm not your friend Sarah, and you've got the wrong area code." She finally stopped calling me after realized she did have the wrong area code. Turns out mine was the same as her friend's, but she had the first number incorrect. Thanks for reminding me of this story, OP. I had a good laugh again over this. Story 33. One time an old biddy called my cell asking for someone. I informed her that she had dialed the wrong number. She got huffy with me saying I had the wrong number. Like, you called me. She continued to try and argue with me and was saying how she was going to report me for hijacking and stealing a phone number. Some guy with common sense calmed her down and apologized to me before they disconnected. Another one that isn't quite the same but is related. When I worked for DSL tech support, I had a customer who had their phone number switched with one of their neighbors. I even spoke to both parties affected to confirm it was happening. The one that didn't report it didn't realize it was a problem until I advised them. It took over a week to get technicians to fix it. I didn't believe it was possible until it happened. Story 34. When my first kid came to world, I texted all of my contacts. One of my contacts switched numbers long ago, so I got a call from a stranger. Oh my god, I'm really curious right now. I know I don't know you but couldn't resist calling. Is it a boy or a girl? Was a fun and nice addition to an already happy moment in life. Story 35. Not me, but my sister. I had just gotten a new phone number and she input the wrong number by accident right before she went to Anime Expo. She got a pillow in the shape of Chrome, a character from Fire Emblem, and intended to send me a picture of it to show it off. She texted the wrong person, who asked who is this, to which she replied my husband. Guy then clarifies that he knows who Chrome is, and asks who the person texting him is. She told me she apologized and said she was trying to text her sister. Guy never responded. Story 36. I got a phone call from someone who sounded like my dad and I sounded like their daughter. I remember answering the phone without checking the ID because I thought it was my friend calling back. The call went, "Me hey loser man, hey what are you up to?" "Me dad man yeah." He sounded just like my father who was working that evening, so I answered all his questions, what I was up to, what my mom was doing, etc. Then he asked where I was going that night. I answered truthfully that I didn't have plans to go anywhere. That's when he got upset and said, "Don't lie to me Cassandra, my name is not Cassandra." That's when I realized this person has got the wrong number and we both confused the voices. I told him, "Oh I'm sorry but you have the wrong number." He was amused and thought his daughter was lying to him and said, "Oh that's funny. So who is this then?" I responded with my name and he said, "Okay, cool gal dash. You tell Cassandra she's in big trouble when I get home. Sorry Cassandra." Edit for clarity. This was when we still used landlines. Story 37. Was DJing at my college radio station and gave out the request line number in case anyone wanted to hear some sweet, juicy indie rock. Instead I get a call from a teenage girl. Me hello, college radio call letters girl did I win? Me what are you trying to win? Girl the trip to Disney World. Me your caller one. Girl OMG me what's your favorite radio station? Girl cheesy top 40 station. Me hangs up sorry about that. Top 40 station promotions department. Story 38. Once answered an unknown number and the voice on the end of the phone hurriedly said, "I'm on my way to the shop. Do you want anything love?" I had no idea who it was, but I said I wanted a Snickers bar. They said, "Okay you'll see you in a bit." I like to think they turned up to their partner's house with a Snickers and had an X-Files moment. Also want to share a memory of my friend that died a few days ago. About 20 years ago his landline was a digit off of what the local bank's number was. He would get phone calls all the time from old people inquiring about their accounts. If he had been a very immoral person he could have totally exploited them, but he would always answer them as though he worked there and told them to come into the bank to sort out whatever they needed. It was a more innocent time, in a sweet little town. It would be very different now. R.I.P. Paul. Story 39. I had a wrong number from a confused and very old-sounding lady. She said, "Hello dear. Could you bring me up some toilet roll?" I explained that. Unfortunately, no I couldn't, but I don't think she really understood why not. I hope she got some in the end. Story 40. Just got home from school. Woman called and asked, "Is the carpet installed yet?" No hello nothing, just straight to the question. I said no. She said, "Why not, they should be done by now." I said I called and cancelled. After a long pause she said, "He must have the wrong number." I said, "Yep," and hung up, quite smug with myself. Story 41. I had just gotten a new number and within the same week somebody I didn't know sent me a text asking what I had for breakfast. I told them they had the wrong number. They didn't reply back. For the next few months I texted them a picture of my breakfast every single morning. They were not amused and eventually asked me to knock it off, which I did, but I always found it funny. Story 42. I got a random person texting me an anti-Trump meme about a year ago. I responded with another anti-Trump meme and this person sent another one in return. Ever since then we keep sending each other anti-Trump memes. We have never had a real conversation, and I don't know who this person is or where they live, but we are united in our hatred for Trump. Story 43. Not me, but my mother. She casually chatted with a Microsoft employee from India or some other foreign country, and completely derailed him on what he was originally calling for, asking her how many computers she had in her home. He ended up making friends with her supposedly, and he hung up. My mother turned to me and asked, "Did I just tell Microsoft to call me more often?" Story 44. When I was in high school, the phone rang and when I answered a guy said Steve, or something, not my name or anyone else. I said, "No, I think you have the wrong number." "Heh whatever Steve, you're not getting me with that one again." "No really, this isn't Steve, there's no Steve here." "Haha, such a kidder, how you doing?" I wasn't sure what to do, and didn't want to just rudely hang up, so I said, "Oh okay, how are you?" He said something like, "Fucking awesome man, the party's rockin', Lisa's suckin', we got 2 kegs, and Matt's hooking us up with the, what are you up to?" I responded truthfully, I'm watching Star Trek with my mom." Star Trek, incredulously and confusedly. "Yeah, this really is not Steve, you have the wrong number." Silence, then click. Story 45. I worked at an ice skate pro shop and our name was incredibly similar to the local newspaper. One day when me and a coworker opened the store we noticed we had a message on the answering machine. It was an old lady calling and letting us know she no longer wants the newspaper. She sounded sweet and quiet. Well, about 8 minutes later it went from nice little grandma to full-blown curse words about how she was too god old to walk to the end of her god driveway to get the paper only to immediately throw it in the god garbage can. We kept that message for years. Story 46. I was on my phone like looking at winter boots. I got a text for a wrong number. They would not give up and could not accept the fact I wasn't their friend. I gave up and sent them pictures of boots and asking their opinion. They were pretty rude and said those are really ugly. Story 47. Not me, but I witnessed as my friend got a text that said your GF is in labor, come quickly. I really hope that they reached the so in time. Edit. I also once got a text that was something like, my son is interested in a sofa that you're selling on Craigslist. Could we come over and take a look at it? Story 48. Someone set up a bot caller for the sole purpose of finding some guy. I wasn't that guy, but the caller had set up like 4 different options. I thought that was weird. Story 49. Someone called me once crying and apologizing and talking about how they fed up and ruined things between us. She seemed really upset, so I played along for 5 minutes to calm her down. I then said she might have the wrong number because I'm not sure what she's talking about. She said, "Really? You don't know who this is?" I said no. Turns out it was someone I hadn't talked to in 5 to 6 years and I didn't recognize the voice through the tears and the subtle change over the years. We chatted for a bit, on and off, and she really wanted to hang out again because she missed me, but only wanted to when it was a convenience for her. I still don't have much interest in hanging out. Story 50. Every 6 months or so, I get a call from some guy's dentist doctor or something, so usually if they call me, I schedule him an appointment, and confirm it whenever they call back. This has been going on for at least 3 years. Story 51. The most recent was from St. Mary's Urgent Prayer Network wanting to pray for me. I'm an atheist and a quick Google search revealed that Texas had issued a public warning about pray for you calling scams. Story 52. If texts count, I got a message that was broken up into 10 separate texts because it was so long. I'm assuming it was some woman trying to talk to her boyfriend about her cheating on him, and the tidbits I remember are things like, "I'm so sorry you're found out about Jack this way. It was only a few times and it was so much worse than with you. Jim is only a coworker. I swear we have never done anything. No matter what Kelly says, it's not true. She is such a that's just trying to ruin my life. I promise the baby is yours. I hope you trust me enough not to get a paternity test." It went on for quite a while. Story 53. Not a call, but I got a text message from a random number. Rando, I love you. Me, who is this? Rando, oh sorry, wrong number. Me, no wait, I thought someone loved me for a moment. They didn't reply back. Story 54. First year of college, my phone rings. I answer it to a man screaming at me saying he knows I slept with his wife and losing his on me. I tell him he has the wrong number because at that point I was still a virgin, so I could not have slept with anyone's wife. He yells at me that because I lying and trying to trick him into thinking he got the wrong number, that he is going to come over to my house and shoot murder me. He then hangs up the phone and all I could think was, whoa, someone is going to die tonight and they won't even see it coming. Sorta felt like it was my fault as I couldn't stop laughing at him over the phone, which seemed to have really pushed him over the edge. Story 55. This guy called me saying, "If you touch my daughter again, he'll kill you." He sounded like some huge black dude, not to be racist. I said, "I think you have the wrong number," and he said, "Sorry man, thought you were somebody else, have a good day." The weird part, the number came from 2 towns away from me. Story 56. Mixed blessing. Picked up a call and it was a lovely female voice with a wrong number. She pressed on and we picked up a good conversation. It turned into a date. I picked her up at her apartment and she was an absolutely lovely young woman. We were both young, but she was definitely prettier than I was handsome. Went to dinner. Everything was going well. She was charming as well as beautiful. Then the conversation turned. It turned out she believed herself to be a white witch, not in the Earth Mother sense, but in the I can actually do magic sense. Noped out of there at my first opportunity. It's possible she was telling me an insane story to get out of a date that she wasn't enjoying, but man, she was so committed. Story 57. Not necessarily the best, But it makes me chuckle. About once every 2 weeks we get a call from an organization I don't support asking for donations. The first time they asked for a Sarah, I told them they had a wrong number. They asked my name and I told them June. About halfway through their spiel I tried to kindly decline and they got nasty. So I hung up. 2 weeks later I get a call for June. I tell them sorry, this is a wrong number. My name is Cheryl, rinse and repeat 2 times a month until we disconnected our home phone.